guys, Trevin here, Gearshift Garage, and we're back at Vintage Technologies with Hawke Lawshe. Tell us about this bike.
Oh, hi, thanks for having me. This particular bike here is what is basically classified as a digger. It's a long, low, short handlebar, skinny, frail, lightweight. Look, it was real popular in the 1960s, done by most of the pioneers, the heavy hitters, Dave Perowitz, Arlen Ness, Donnie Smith, guys like that. This was a real popular look. Most of the time done on a Sportster chassis. Uh, when it came to be in the early 1980s, Harley Davidson designed a frame um, known as an FXR, which was a rubber mounted system with the engine and transmission and swing arm rubber mounted within the rest of the chassis. Arlen Ness kind of capitalized on that particular FXR digger thing, and kind of pioneered that all by himself. Nobody else was making those pieces, so it was really neat to find a original FXR Arlen Ness frame. They had very small 7/8 tubing, very frail tubular swing arm, things to that effect. Another thing of that era was a body kit that was utilized in most racing applications, flat track and straightaway drag racing and whatnot. A fellow named Tracy actually made a one-piece gas tank, oil tank, fender system that was just kind of a slip-on body for these race bikes. A bulk of them were fiberglass. I think all of them, from my knowledge. Anyhow, Arlen Ness got with Tracy to build a steel version of that for this particular chassis. Another unique thing to see in the same place. Again, there was a gentleman named Gary Bang in California who had a motorcycle dealership and a parts line, very popular. He was the go-to for any and all Harley stuff in Southern California through 70s and 80s and whatnot. This bike was contracted by Gary Bang to Arlen Ness to build as an exhibition race bike for his dealership. And at the time, no VIN numbers were stamped in it or anything to that effect. It was constructed by Ness, bodied by Tracy. It was then painted by a famous car painter, Carluni, and then striped by another gentleman, Berg, which is all badged on the tail end of the fender here. Found the frame and the bodywork and most of the rolling chassis in Boise in a garage a number of years ago. No motor or transmission or anything to that effect. Got it here to the shop and started trying aiming towards the early 1980s components, ball milled Arlen Ness type of things. Harley Davidson in 1982 introduced the FXR. Their shovelhead engine was still the engine of choice. The 1983 FXR was also a shovelhead. By 1984, they were all Evolution engines. So there were only 2 years that Harley did shovelhead FXRs. I felt, given the era correctness and the lack of history that I could actually find on what motor was actually put in the bike, we went with a large stroked polished shovelhead. So it's a 93-inch stroker, dual plugs, sourced the original Arlen Ness 2-into-1 pipe for the shovelhead FXR, another rare piece. Mikuni Solex carburetor. Some of the parts were more modern billet pieces that we kind of had to ball mill ourselves to kind of get back into the era thing. A lot of the Arlen Ness 1980s ball milled components, billet and polished whatnot, are very sought after. They're very difficult to get a hold of, and when you can, they are tenaciously expensive. So we were able to source a lot of stuff and kind of finish the bike. We have no photos, documents, anything, no proof that this bike was ever actually finished. So
Oh, interesting.
I have been unable to develop any proof on a lot of those things. So we kind of went with hearsay and the who said that, and some people remembered the bike and some people remembered the project, but again, it was never followed up on.
Who had it?
It was a gentleman named Jerry. He put on a show called Petroleum Boise in Boise, Idaho, and we went down there as just a normal bike show, and he had a little pre-party at his house. In his house, he had 3 or 4 different projects, and up on a lift in the corner was this with no motor or anything like that in it. And man, I just kind of fell in love with it. And so after working on it for a little bit, we were able to strike a deal and get the bike. Then the project kind of was slow moving. Took about a year and a half. Again, it wasn't a priority project. It's such a neat piece of history. So as little pieces came to us, we just
I
added them
see.
on. The performance machine, solid 16-inch rear wheel was a thing of the era. And many of them were center lines that had little rivets on them. That is a completely smooth thing there. It did have the dual brake caliper bracket, which was kind of wild because it took a 13-inch brake rotor, which is not remotely common. So a friend of mine, Paul with Bare Knuckle Industries, machined me that brake caliper out of stainless, and we were able to use the caliper for the rear brake, the pedal, and the caliper for the front brake at the handlebar, and be able to leave the whole front wheel naked.
Oh,
So
cool.
there's no brake rotors or anything like that, but there is two brake controls.
Gotcha.
Again, it was a wild, unique piece. This particular mount, unaware of its original origin, I bet it came with the bike. So decided to
So
put
it's
it
got
to
to stay.
use, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we worked around some of those little tricks areas, you know. The triple trees were included with it. Again, I'm unsure of the manufacturer or time, but definitely of the era. They're really unique 35 millimeter tapered top billet triple tree. I wouldn't even be able to tell you where to find another one of those. So a lot of these things were kind of weird, unique to the era. It has HURST, like the HURST automotive shifters and stuff, HURST brake and clutch controls with a hydraulic clutch control. Again, unobtainium. I have never ever seen another set of those ever in my life, and research on them is comes up
Crazy.
completely dry. A lot of weird little stuff like that. Again, we were trying to adhere to the history and the era of the bike,
Hmm.
and try to give our rendition of it without, sacrificing its authenticity. Some of the weird little things, we had originally put Avon tires on it. I was on a heavy search for Metzler ME33 laser tires, and I mean, a seriously cool part in the 80s. Again, they have not made that tire in 25 years. So I had another bike that I had purchased, and we put vintage tires on it, and I was blown away that it was an 80s build that had beautiful Metzler tires on it. So I pulled them off. They wound up on this bike here. Some of the parts are modern, but we've done all the necessary stuff to try to reel it back in time a little bit. So it is really nasty, fast, light, evil little bike. It's super cool. A lot of people that were familiar with Arlen and Gary Bang and Tracy and all these guys, it's really neat to see them come up to it and appreciate what's going on. It's a funky old piece, and it's kind of a wild purple, and I'm not a purple or a digger guy, but it's a bitchin' bike. It hauls ass. It looks cool. That was the coolest thing about diggers, man. They look like they're going 100 mile an hour
Yeah,
when they're
no
just sitting
stand
still.
still. Yeah, exactly.
Riding it, it's kind of like a little awkward. You
Right.
don't look as cool as you'd think, but it came out great, and it gets we won the FXR award with it at the Virginia City Roundup in Virginia City, Nevada, a couple years ago. It's been on display in FXR shows in California, and
Oh, awesome.
we plan on doing a little bit more with it too. Just it came back up here to Montana recently, and so now we're gonna try to make it do stuff instead of just sitting in the
Yeah.
corner.
The paint looks amazing. Have you? I mean, it didn't come this way, did it?
The paint, this was the paint job that was on it. There were several nicks, scratches, scrapes, items of damage that we had to resurrect. Local guy, Tim Schroeder with TNT Customs, very skilled airbrush artist, and he does a lot of factory paint repair on custom Harley, CVO bikes, and stuff like that. He's very skilled at what he does, and took the body and the frame to him, and he meticulously went through and touched up all this stuff. There's like 9 different purples in this. So he kind of had a blank canvas and doing repairs. He didn't need to target an exact color. So he did incorporate a couple of new stripes and a couple of new things like that. But there's a lot of the saran wrap wrinkle type effect in it. There's brighter metal flake in different areas. And the pinstripe work is, I mean, second to none. It's razor sharp everywhere. And it's signed by both Carluni and Berg right in the fender.
That's awesome.
So that's, again, stuff like that that you just can't get. Arlen's not with us. I don't believe Tracy's with us anymore either. Gary Bang is no longer with us. Carluni and Berger of the automotive industry, so I can't confirm or deny, but yeah, if they were still with us, they'd probably remember this bike pretty well. There's a lot of work that went into that paint.
That's awesome. Dang. Does it make you nervous to ride this thing?
The first couple times it did. It has a really crazy, this tank wraps around the frame, so there's just these two little fangs. It holds about 2 gallons, which is kind of deceiving. You wouldn't think it was that much, but there's 2 very small 1/4-inch outlets at the bottom, and being able to tie them together and then run the fuel uphill to a very thirsty carburetor to an even thirstier motor, I was starving the fuel line really bad. So what we went ahead and did is built a little stainless steel Y right here, and then I was able to actually yoke it out to a 3/8 straight feed to it, and it got rid of the complete uphill. Other than that, yeah, it's ready for the track.
That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, thanks for showing us. Appreciate
Hey,
it.
man, anytime. That's why I'm here.